guys, welcome back to Food Prep Guide. If you love the suddenly salad, pasta salad mixes at the store, this video is for you. We are going to be making our own homemade version of the bacon ranch flavor. Now, if you read the ingredients label on the back of those boxes, you will see many ingredients that most of us just do not stock in our kitchen. So there is going to be a little bit of a difference. We're going to be using all ingredients that we can pronounce, which is one of the best parts of making mixes like this homemade. We decide what is in them. Now, if you like pasta salad, this is something that you can easily customize. We're going to be making the base bacon ranch mix, but you can easily then turn this into all sorts of things when you go to make your pasta salad by adding a can of chicken or sprinkling in some pesto or sprinkling in just whatever kind of vegetables that you like. This mix is really versatile. Now, I'm going to be making the mix in a jar. We're going to make a quart jar so that we can get multiple batches out of our time investment today. And then stay tuned to the end of this video. I'm going to be actually making the mix and showing you the finished product pasta salad. I'm going to eat it for lunch today. Okay, let's get started. Okay, before we get started, I want to mention that the first blend that we're going to do is basically a homemade ranch dressing powder. Now, we have already done a video on this channel about homemade ranch dressing. We made this together in a previous video, but I don't want to assume that everyone who watches this video has also watched this video and made this ranch dressing mix. So we're going to start from scratch and pretend like you don't have this. If you do have your ranch dressing mix, you can absolutely just scoop out 2/3 cup of your ranch dressing mix and then move forward with a recipe for everything else. So all of the, basically the spices and seasonings are going to be in the ranch dressing, and then the vegetables and the bacon. If you have this mix, you can do 2/3 cup of this mix and then add the vegetables and bacon that we'll get to in just a minute. So I did want to mention that, but I want to make sure you have everything you need in one video. So I'm going to put that aside for now, and we're going to start from scratch. So we need 1/2 cup of buttermilk powder. 1/2 cup of buttermilk powder. If all you have is milk powder or powdered milk, you can certainly use that, but the buttermilk powder is certainly something special with this ranch dressing. So if you can swing it, I highly recommend going with the buttermilk powder. I have some link in the description box if you need help sourcing some. Okay, to that, we're going to add 1 tablespoon of onion powder. 1 tablespoon of onion powder. And then we need 1.5 teaspoons of dried parsley. 1.5 teaspoons. This is from our garden, and it's not really crunched up very good, so I've got to measure it and then put it in my hand and then kind of crinkle it up. So y'all bear with me while I do that real quick. Okay, so that's 1.5 teaspoons of parsley. And to that, we will add 1.5 teaspoons of dill weed. One and a half teaspoons of dill weed. And to that, we will add 1 teaspoon of garlic powder. This is my freeze-dried minced garlic. I prefer to use this because it is so much more potent. So I'm just going to do the same thing with the parsley. I'm going to get a teaspoon of minced and then crumble it up as much as I can. But you just need 1 teaspoon of garlic powder. And to that, we will add 1/2 teaspoon of salt. 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Doesn't matter what kind. And then we will do 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper. 1/4 teaspoon. I don't know if y'all can hear that, but my bread machine just kicked on. It's making a lot of noises over there. I hope it's not too interruptive. Okay, so that is basically our homemade ranch dressing mix. I'm going to get a spatula real quick and just kind of mix that around. So remember, if you did already have that, this is the point that you would pick up with the recipe. Okay, so I'm just going to mix that around really good. Get that nice and blended together. Here's what it's looking like. So now we're going to move forward with the rest of the recipe. we need 3/4 cup of dehydrated carrots. Now, the format can be whatever you want. Sometimes I do shredded. I have shredded today. Goodness, is this vacuum sealed? Yep. I have shredded today, so that's what I'm going to be using. But I often use finely diced carrots for this recipe. So it doesn't really matter what kind of form it's in. You just need 3/4 cup total. If y'all have never dehydrated strawberries at home, it is incredible how sweet they smell. I'm going to crumple it up just like I did earlier with those herbs. Just because when you're making a pasta salad, it's nice to have the vegetables kind of evenly distributed. That's the only reason I'm kind of crumpling it up. It's certainly not necessary. And if you do the finely minced or finely diced carrots, then you definitely wouldn't have to mix them up like what I'm doing here. Okay, so in addition to carrots, oops, let me get that big old chunk of carrot that didn't mince up. In addition to the carrots, we're going to add peas, and we need 1.5 cups of peas. And I want to talk to you about that too, because you can use freeze-dried or dehydrated. Both ways work fine. These are freeze-dried, and because of that, the volume is going to be a lot more than dehydrated. Dehydrated food shrinks down to about half its size when dehydrated, and freeze-dried foods really keep their same volume. So the recipe calls for 1.5 cups of dehydrated peas, which means I could go as much as 2 to 3 cups of freeze-dried peas if I wanted to. I'm not going to. I'm going to go ahead and keep it 1.5 cups of freeze-dried peas. The reason for that is because when I go to make up this recipe, I've already measured it out, by the way, it's 1.5 cups. So I'm just going to pour this straight in. When I go to make up the pasta salad, I have all of my freeze-dried and dehydrated ingredients right there in a cabinet. If I want to add more of anything, I can do that when I go to make it up. But I kind of want to lean on the side of conservative and streamlined whenever I'm making my base mix, if that makes sense. Okay, so 1.5 cups of dehydrated peas, and then finally we need 3/4 cup of bacon bits, and I wanted to talk to you about these as well. As you may or may not know, the instructions on these real bacon bits pieces from the grocery store, these are just, it's like a Hormel brand knockoff, Great Value brand. It says that the package is good until July of 2026. So it's good for a long time, but it says refrigerate once opened. Because this is, you can see that this is not a vacuum sealed package. If this was vacuum sealed, it would be completely suctioned and super thin and all that. So this does not have oxygen removed from it. What it does have is a moisture absorber inside of it. So what I do when I'm making this mix is I take the moisture absorbers out of the bacon bits and I put them in my quart jar that I'm going to be storing my homemade mix in, and then I am perfectly fine with putting that on my shelf. If you are not comfortable with doing that, and you know, once you open this package and you're not comfortable with keeping it on your shelf, then by all means put it in your refrigerator. I have done it this way. It's totally fine to leave it on your shelf, especially with those moisture absorbers in there. But you can absolutely store this in your refrigerator if you prefer. Okay, so 3/4 cup of bacon bits. I'm going to fish out that moisture absorber real quick. Well, it's down at the bottom, so let me measure out 3/4 cup. There's 1. There's 2. And oh, this one doesn't have one. That's okay. I have moisture absorbers, so that's weird. Normally, my bacon bits come with a moisture absorber in them. These didn't. But the other reason why I'm okay with storing these on my shelves is these are dehydrated, y'all. They are not like dehydrated to a rocky hard crisp, but they are salt preserved and then lightly dehydrated with enough moisture removed from them to not cause issues sitting on our shelf. So I'm going to put a moisture absorber in my quart jar. I'm not going to pause the camera and get that out right now. They are called silica gel packs, in case you are new to that. My last 1/4 cup was really light. It wasn't fully full. And I also am curious to see if this package has a moisture absorber in it, because they normally do. I don't know why that one didn't. It doesn't look like this one does either. But anyway, my last quarter cup was a little bit light, so I'm just going to do about half of that to get a total of 3/4 cup of bacon bits. Okay, now we're going to mix all that together. That's it. So we have our buttermilk ranch dressing, and then we have carrots, peas, and bacon bits. So I'm going to mix that all together really well. And get that in our quart jar. You need about a cup of this mixture to make a 1 serving of pasta salad, which we're about to make on camera together. So this quart jar holds just shy of 4 cups. So you can get about 4 batches of this pasta salad out of this 1 quart jar mix. Okay, so let me get my counters cleaned off here, and then we will make up this pasta salad together, and I will be right back. Okay, this next step is optional, but I do highly recommend it, and I almost forgot it and had to come back and film this clip. So I recommend running your finished blend through a food processor, and it's really for 2 reasons. Number 1, your freeze-dried veggies, the carrots and the peas, are going to have to sit in the fridge for several hours, preferably overnight, in order to soften enough to the point that you can eat it enjoyably without it being hard. A lot of times when I am going for this mix, I'm going for this mix because I don't have much time, or my plan fell through and I'm needing to move to plan B. And that doesn't really work if I have to wait overnight for the pasta salad to chill, or 3 hours for it to chill. Running your mix through the processor solves that problem. It's going to break down the veggies into really small pieces and make it rehydrate in the mayonnaise so much faster. The second reason is for texture. That's like a personal subjective thing. Some people like their pasta salads creamy, some people like them chunky, so I know that's subjective, but really the number 1 reason is the first reason I mentioned about letting your veggies rehydrate if they're in a much smaller type size. I got distracted by this big clump in here. The other thing that I was going to say, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, the other thing I was going to say is that when you blend it all together like this, it mixes, the powder mixes with the veggies a lot better versus the veggies falling to the bottom and then you being left with a bunch of powder on top, which that's not good. So this also kind of solves that issue too. So I'm just going to pulse it for just a few seconds, and I'm paying attention to the peas, and I'm just using that as my indicator of when they're small enough to be done. Okay. I'm going to go 1 more pulse. Okay, good. Okay, let me show you the texture of what I was going for. The peas are still bigger than everything else, but they're not completely whole anymore. You can see it. You can see that there are still some whole peas. There are still some decent sized chunks of both veggies and bacon bits. Like, that's a pretty good sized chunk right there. But like I said, they will rehydrate so much better. Okay, hope that helps. Okay, to make your pasta salad, all you need is your mix, mayonnaise, and pasta. We do 2 cups of pasta. Now that is before you cook it. So 2 cups of uncooked pasta, which of course cooks up to a little bit more than 2 cups. But it's 2 cups of uncooked pasta. And then we need 1 cup of our dry mix. I'm going to mix the dry mix and the mayos separately because just gets nice and streamlined that way. Whoops. So 1/2 cup. This is a 1/2 cup measuring cup, so I'm just going to do 2 of those. So 1 cup of our mixture. And then we need about 3/4 cup of mayonnaise. Y'all, I never measure the mayonnaise. So I'm not gonna actually get out my measuring cup, but anywhere between 3/4 cup and a cup of your mayonnaise. Do just a little bit more. And that's gonna be about 3/4 cup. The good thing about this mixture is if the flavors aren't as concentrated as you want them to be when you add your mayonnaise, just sprinkle in more of your mixture. You've got plenty right there, and you can make this as flavor intense as you like. You're not having to skimp like you do with those box mixes and they give you hardly any flavoring, even though it's really good. They give you hardly any flavor mixture. Okay, so I am going to add more mayonnaise. This is my, this is because I used freeze-dried peas. Let me show you what I'm looking at. You can see how extremely thick this mixture is. It needs to be thinner than that for pasta salad, and it's extremely thick like that because I used freeze-dried peas and I didn't like decrease the amount. So I'm going to add a little bit more mayonnaise and just keep on mixing until it's the consistency that I want to see. And this is looking good. And I've already cooked that pasta, so now once you have the mixture that you want, this is much creamier now. Much creamier, so I'm going to just go ahead and mix it with the pasta. And show you what the finished product looks like. And then I'm going to sit down and enjoy some lunch. Now at this point, you can make this however you want. Yes, this is a bacon ranch blend, but I am here to tell you that so many add-ins pair well with this flavor. One of my favorite things to do is add pesto. And I know that might sound a little strange mixed with ranch, but you think of like a ranchy pesto. I mean, the flavors really do complement each other well. I'm not going to add anything to this mix. I want you to see what it looks like all by itself. But then I would usually also add a half pint, so basically a cup or even a full pint, 2 cups of canned chicken. Or of course you can use the cans at the store. But chicken works really good in this. Sometimes I like to use sun-dried tomatoes. It's really good. Okay, I think this is about done. I think it could use a little bit more mayonnaise, but it also is looking pretty good all by itself. I don't know about y'all, but that looks very similar to the store-bought stuff. Now, of course, the store-bought mixes use shell pasta, and that's just not a pasta that we stock. We pretty much only stock penne, rotini, and elbow macaroni. And we pretty much make all of our pasta salads with elbow macaroni, but you can choose whatever noodle that you would like. Don't forget, y'all, in case you haven't heard, our dry mix in jars giveaway is open. We have our mix in jars cookbook coming out soon, and we like to run a giveaway for all those who are willing to hop on the wait list and be notified for when the cookbook is available. We will pick a winner to win one for free. That link will be down in the description box below. If you have trouble accessing the description box on your device, go ahead and comment pasta salad down in the comments and I will send you the link that way. That's all for today. We'll see you next time. Bye.